Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans across the country and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast, aptly named. One of these days I'm working on it, man. We're going to get it to, but I digress. But I digress with that comment. Ohio State coming off in my opinion, an impressive 34-10 win over Michigan State, a team that returned like 18, 19 starters from a year ago. There were high hopes in East Lansing that this team could make another run like it has under Mark D'Antonio, make another run for a possible Big Ten championship. As that game went on Saturday night, as you saw, Ohio State pretty much put Michigan State in its place methodically. I was impressed. Some people weren't. I was impressed by the way Ohio State kept chopping the wood, as Greg Schiano used to say a year ago, the late, great Ohio State defensive coordinator. Like I said, I digress. I'm going to bring on a guest of mine here, a guy I've known for quite a while now, a fellow I got to know when he was as early as 16 years old when he first committed to Ohio State University, and it became I think one of the key components of a championship season. Now he's watching things from up on high, the Big Ten Network. I think he's doing a hell of a job. He's always been an intelligent guy. Now he's learned how to cash in on that. But welcome in Joshua Perry from Lewis Center. Joshua, how are you doing?
I am just lovely today. How are you?
Pretty good. I didn't want to lay the mustard on too thick. You know what I mean? That hot dog. But bottom line is, I have been impressed with you almost since I've known you, from the standpoint of you've got your eyes wide open. You're not just kind of bumping through life. You're taking in everything from football to culture to how mankind is going. And we're going to get to one thing I think is on your mind, a lot of players, especially ex-players' minds, is the idea that college football players should share a little bit more in the largesse generated by them from a financial situation. But before that, I wanted to ask you, you've been watching the Big Ten, like I said, from like the ivory tower of the Big Ten Network headquarters. And what's just impressed you about Ohio State to this point? And is Ohio State the team to beat in the Big Ten at this moment?
Yeah, the thing that's impressive to me, and I've said it before, when you flip on the tape and you watch Ohio State, and you watch just about every other team from the conference, it looks different. Ohio State looks faster. The players look bigger. The game plan looks better. Like, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. You could say that with Ohio State versus just about everybody else in college football right now, too, except for some of the other top dogs.
Yeah.
This team they have it all. I mean, they got a quarterback who can make all the plays, throwing the ball and running the ball. They got a running back who's running behind an angry O-line. They're being very productive on the ground. They've got great receiver talent on the outside. Flip it to the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Chase Young, I could really stop after saying his name, but Chase Young destroying games the way that he does. Then you look at the linebacker unit, much improved, which, last year we didn't have a lot of great things to say about the defense overall, but we had very few good things to say about them. And then the defensive backfield taking away the ball. I mean, they're creating turnovers at a high pace right now. And it's everything about this team, the way that they play, the way that they seem to care about each other, the way that Ryan Day has got these guys motivated, man. It's different.
Specifically, you played linebacker at Ohio State. You watched last year, like a lot of us did, kind of with one hand over one eye. You know what I mean? What is specifically different with the way the Buckeyes are playing at linebacker from your vantage point?
This is more aggressive. I feel like you watch these guys, and they're getting downhill. I think that they're more decisive, and that was the difference. Last year, I think there were too many alignments. They were probably playing too many schemes. And we would see guys starting on the snap the ball in the line of scrimmage. That is not a great place for a linebacker to be unless he's blitzing. So it's a tough spot already. The amount of coverages that they had in last year was crazy. This year they play a couple of base coverages. They play a lot of 3D zone, and then they play man-to-man. And in the man-to-man, it's really simple. If you watch the game plan, majority of the time, if it's a tight end, Pete Warner is going to be covering him out the linebacker spot. The other two backers got the running back. Makes a pretty simple game plan-wise. So the ability to let these guys all across the defense just pin their ears back, but especially the linebackers, get downhill and play ball, it's their asset.
You played against quarterbacks when you were in the game, both in the high school, college, and the NFL. What impresses you most about what Justin Fields has done to date? I keep telling everybody I like the patience he's showing. He's not just going out there and trying to show you he's the toughest guy on the lot, the greatest guy on the lot. But what from your vantage point have you seen from him that impresses you?
He looks mature. You know, he looks like he's played in a lot of big games. He looks like he's played in a lot of games, period.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard for quarterbacks to get comfortable. And, you know, especially at Ohio State, all eyes are on you. And coming off of last year with Dwayne Haskins playing the way that he did, he had some big shoes to fill. He's done as much. The way that he throws the ball a lot of times is effortless. And you can even see, like, he gets – it can get him into trouble. But he doesn't even, like, fully put his lower body into some of his throws because he's so strong.
Yeah.
And then, again, like, I can't remember who he shook, but there was one play where he gave a little dead leg. The guy went off a diving board, and he turned a play that should have been a 1 yard gain into like 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was off his left side. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. And it's amazing the way that he can do those things now. You know, in fairness, we feel like there's not a lot of holes in Ohio State's game and their team right now. I think that patience that you talked about is interesting to me because I love a patient quarterback. He keeps his eyes down the field. He wants to make the throws before he takes off. That patience got him into a little bit of trouble where he made a little bit of a casual throw as his first interception of the year. But also, sometimes the pocket starts to get a little bit cloudy, and he stands in there for what might be a tick or a tick and a half too long.
Mm-hmm.
And that might get him into a little bit of trouble. He put the ball on the ground one time, and I think, you know, part of it was a really good pass rush, but the other part of it is to pull the ball down, get out the pocket, or throw it away. So
yeah.
For him, I think that comes with being in bigger games against better competition, but not a lot of negative I can say about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, a lot of things there that are becoming apparent. That was a really sound defense they played against. You know, you played against Michigan State way back when. That was a sound defense they played against the other night. Like I was saying in the pregame show, 97.1 The Fan, that I get to do every week now. You know, the thing about this Michigan State defense is you're not going to snooker them probably. You just got to keep going until you beat them, you know. And but what stood out was even against the Michigan State defense, the presence of Justin Fields, what he means to the rest of the offense from the standpoint of the threat factor. I mean, the pass to Benjamin Victor that Victor turned into the touchdown, you know, the big play by J.K. Dobbins. I mean, they had a safety come up and read. He thought Justin was going to keep the ball. He comes out of position, and J.K., when he gets through the first level, you know, runs through one little tackle there, and he's gone. And that's what gets you. That's what a running big-time threat at quarterback gets you, right?
Absolutely. And I think kind of piggybacking off of that, the reality of the situation is the numbers become a little bit tougher on defense where, you know, you got to have defenders ready to roll on the quarterback that can move. But the other thing it does is it opens up the full field to play because he can get the ball to the edges, running it or throwing it. He can get the ball downhill and stretch you vertically as well. So that's what you saw with this team was running sideline to sideline. They were also covering deep, and they got really tired. And you could look, and not to disparage my man, but Joe Buckeyes is one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten Conference.
Yes.
And there were a number of plays, even like leading up to halftime, where he wasn't fully pursuing to the ball. And it's not because he's not a tough guy. It's not because he's a dog of a player. It's the fact that he was legitimately tired. That's what this offense can do to you.
Yeah, you know what impressed me about him as much as anything, though? When Ohio State scored its last touchdown where Justin kept over right end, you remember they took a look at J.K. Dobbins' run the play before and determined he was down at the 1 yard line. But on that keeper off the right end, J.K. Dobbins meets Bocce, you know, on the edge there. Big collision. Justin, of course, scores. But I was so impressed by this because Bocce got up and then I do believe he helped J.K. up almost like in, man, that was a football play. You know what I mean?
It was.
I love that Bocce kid, man. Go ahead.
I do too. I mean, like you talked about this, but those two guys specifically, it's kind of crazy that they had that collision on that play.
Yes.
You talked about two players that are tough and they respect the game. They love football. Both of those guys do. And they are Big Ten players. Like, that's exactly what they are. Lunch pail guys, bring the hard hat. You know, J.K. blocks a pass throw. Joe Buckeyes over here taking on lead blockers to try to blow up a play. Yeah. Like, that's the fun thing about Big Ten ball.
Yeah, Absolutely. Hey, well, let's jump real quick. Just give me a little synopsis on, Ohio State's sitting there tied for third with Georgia, I think, in the AP poll this week. They're number 4 in the coaches poll. Is that about right from what you've seen? What is just your take on that from a national standpoint?
I mean, I can sit here and I can play pluses and minuses with everybody.
Right.
Like Alabama, for example, I don't know how strong their opponents have been up to this point. I think their defense is not as good as they typically are. So you could, kind of go either way on that. Their offense is playing really well and they haven't lost a game. So give them a check in that box. Clemson, it's one of those years. Clemson right now to me feels like Ohio State in 15, where, like some of these games, they're winning them. Some of them are a little bit too close. Maybe they're not as good as we thought they were.
Yeah.
Who knows what the deal is there. But they're winning their games, so you give them a check in the box. Georgia, to me, has shown a lot, but at the same time, I think that against the right opponent, they're susceptible. Ohio State's the same way. I feel like, we talk about how good they look, the pass and look test, but and they're winning games the way they're supposed to be. Like, that's the most important thing. But, I think a lot of people want to see, and me too, I want to see them against Penn State, who I think is playing really, really well right now. I want to see them against Wisconsin, who has a super good defense. These are the games I want to see. So I think it's fair for right now. Maybe Clemson's a little bit too high, but I mean, you win your games is what you get.
Yeah. I keep using this line too when I talk about Ohio State right now, though. It just seems like under Ryan Day guidance, the offense, they've got an answer. I mean, they no matter what question you pose at them, eventually they find an answer. And one of those answers is, you better look out. They can pop a big play at any moment. That's kind of what got them through. See, people don't understand. I know you understand this, Joshua. When Ohio State, when Alabama plays Clemson in the national championship game last year, there were no methodical drives, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards down the field. There was like a 3-yard play followed by a 2-yard play followed by a 30-yard play. You follow my drift. I mean, the big plays. The big plays are what make the difference when you go against better defenses, and the good defenses. And I think that's what Ohio State has going for it right now is when push comes to shove, they still have an answer. They still have a guy who can pop one. I mean, does it look that way to you?
I agree with that. And, we talk about keys to winning games as a defense is one of the things people always say. But I think that it's absolutely true. When I was previewing the matchup on BTN, they asked me, what do you think the key is going to be for Michigan State in terms of how they can beat the Buckeyes? I said, well, they got to be able to sustain drives, which they by and large, struggle to do.
Yeah.
But the other thing to me was, if you can eliminate the big hit, it's hard to score points. And there's not a lot of teams in college football that can sustain long drives and score points and win games doing that.
Yes.
Like a lot of times you got to outscore your opponent in college football. And so if teams can't get those chunks, they're not going to be able to outscore anybody. Ohio State can get the chunks anytime they need to.
Yeah.
Anytime they need.
Is the success they've had in the second quarter indicative of a coaching staff that it's on its game? I'm talking about this whole season. They've pretty much dominated the second quarter, except, a couple games where they didn't need to. But is that indicative of a coaching staff that's on its game?
Can I repeat that?
I said, is the way they've dominated the second quarter, especially this year, indicative of a coaching staff that is on its game, meaning from a,
yes.
adjustment standpoint?
Yes. And I think that Ohio State under Urban Meyer was really good at the halftime adjustment. I think that right now they're really good at the on-field in-game adjustment.
Yeah.
To where they can have that type of explosion. You get a few minutes between quarters, and you can really iterate to your players and demonstrate to them what they need to be doing, and then they can go out and do that exact thing. It says a lot. It's going to be big. It's going to be big down the line because right now, when you look at first half, I think the ability to score as much as you can in the first half is going to be big against like a Penn State or a Wisconsin. Because when you come out in the second half, it's going to be a dogfight anyway.
Yeah.
Get the points while you can. while your team is still fresh and while the looks are still new.
Yeah, I think they're averaging holding teams in the second half to something like 4.6 points at this point. That's pretty good.
It's awesome.
That's pretty good. Hey, well, let's jump gears. Let's shift gears here now. I'll put the clutch in and go up into like a high third gear. The big talk, of course, last week was about what happened in California State Bill, what was it, 206 or whatever it's called. But the fact that they've now made it legal for college football or college athletes to make money on their image and likenesses, etc. Like I was saying on Channel 10 last night on Wall to Wall Sports, the bottom line is, though, the schools also have to kind of go along with it. I mean, they have to. It's not just as simple as just saying this is going to happen and everybody's going to be happy. You and I have talked about this before ad nauseum. Just give me a microcosm on where you stand. By where you stand, I mean, what should happen in this college football landscape so that the players, especially college football and big-time college basketball, so that they share in the financial largesse that's really over the top now compared to 20 years ago.
Yes, and I think the name, image, and likeness is the perfect way to go. It does a number of things. Number one, it opens up a market that already exists and it existed for a long time, but it does it, I think, in an equitable way to where, like if you're a very productive player, if you're popular, or even if you're a player that has a unique personality that meshes with a local company or whatever, you can go ahead and capitalize off of that. It's not asking the university to provide money and figure out how they're supposed to do that and get around Title IX and all those kinds of things. It would be too hard. But to me, there are too many businesses associated with the game that have a lot of money, and they're spending them on the universities. They're even spending them on the coaches. Like, love Coach Meyer, I love his family, but we've all seen the commercials that Shelly Meyer was doing for Big Sandy.
Yeah.
And, Shelly was a great support to us players, and she was always there for us, but she didn't coach us and she wasn't on the field. She's still able to reap the benefits. I'm not saying that she shouldn't. I'm saying that players should be able to have the same sort of access to markets. I can go into a million different what-if scenarios.
Sure.
But, the California law, I think, was pretty cut and dry when you read it. Guys have to be represented by an attorney or an agent. The deals have to be reviewed by the universities as well. There's no scenario of a conflict of interest where a kid can wear Adidas at a Nike school type situation.
Yeah.
It's all above board. It is not a pay-for-play situation where somebody can promise you $200,000 when you get on campus. It's a legitimate contract situation where you're offering services provided for financial return or for something of value. So if I do a commercial, you might give me a loaner car. If I do a commercial, you might give me a few $1,000. Yeah. Something like that, but nothing where, hey, show up to campus and we'll give you $200,000. That's still going to be illegal. All those different things.
But here's the thing, real quick. I see, though, the big-time powers being able to collectively say, you know what, kid, youngster, young man, great quarterback, if you come here, we can put together a package. We can guarantee you a package that you're going to get opportunities that you're not going to get, if you go to Ohio University, or you understand what I'm saying, or maybe even Virginia.
Sure.
I mean, do you see it escalating to that? Because that would be the next step, right? If it's legalized, then hey, you know what? The blue bloods get bluer, right?
Sure, and that's a good question. I think that the blue bloods traditionally get the best recruits, and I haven't done the research, but I could probably pull a case study on that.
Yeah.
So there's already a disparity in recruiting. I think that when you look at Columbus, for example, we're a unique place. Columbus is a big city, and it's a college town. The only other one I can think about that's a true big city and a true college town is probably Austin.
Yeah.
LA is not a college town. New York, Boston are not college towns. So there's a little bit of a unique thing going on there, but it seems like they could generate the money in Tuscaloosa. They could find it in Knoxville as well. So I don't know if that's the scenario. And then finally, the way that they want the contracts to be reviewed by attorneys and by the universities, if I was the NCAA, I would jump in ahead of this and say that we're going to create our own agency oversight, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And all contract information needs to be turned into us. We need to be able to aggregate this information. And then we can see what the typical going rates are in certain cities. So you can't say that a guy who's never played a snap before is worth a certain amount of money that he's like actually not worth on the market. So then it would take away that scenario too, where schools are saying, hey, you know what, we're going to promise you this. They can promise it to you, but you can't actually pay it because that's not the going rate for a player that's never played before.
Yeah, I mean, you could go, when you start talking about this, it is a Pandora's box. You can go off like an octopus with 1,000 legs on it. You could go all kinds of different directions, you know, and really of the ramifications, et cetera. Let me ask you this. You played college football. You know, observed college football. Is this the beginning of the end for college football, as some people are saying, as doomsayers are saying, or do you think it is manageable? For example, like last week when we got to talk to Gene Smith before one of the press conferences after this California bill was passed or was signed into law, whatever it was, you know, I asked him after he made fun of me for still being in the media. He thought I retired. But I asked him, I said, isn't this a lot? I mean, the NCAA has like dragged its feet on this forever knowing this was coming. You know, and I call it lollygagging. And he said, yes, you know, but there have been lawsuits and things. You can't necessarily make rules while there are lawsuits being made. Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. But do you see this as the beginning of the end of big-time college football and basketball?
I don't know why it would be. I hear a lot
either.
of people saying that, and for the life of me, I can't understand why that would be. And I think it's for two things. We've got a lot of people who are just grasping at straws to keep these guys unpaid. And I think it's unfair. But the other thing to me is when you really boil it down, I use myself as an example all the time. I was a team captain. I led the team in tackles on a national championship team. The money that I would have made off of name, image, and likeness would not have been life-changing. It absolutely would not have been. Might have made $1,000 a month doing autograph signings, appearances, or whatever. Maybe would have made a little bit more than that. That's not changing anybody's life. It's a lot of money for a college kid to get, but let's not mistake it here. It's not going to become a place where you got typical, and this would be across 90% of the locker room, where somebody would make over six figures doing appearances and autographs. It just wouldn't happen. You might get a J.T. Barrett or a Cardale Jones or even a Justin Fields who has that type of recognition. Chase Young. Majority of the guys make a couple extra $1,000, and does anybody get jealous that the quarterback gets that kind of money? I don't know. Does anybody get jealous that Kirk Herbstreit's only talking to Justin Fields when ESPN's in town there? He's not talking to anybody else.
Bingo.
No.
Yeah.
Don't count other guys' pockets. Mind your own damn business. Play your game, and then you might make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind that people would say that. That's not where it's going to get.
Yeah, that's just funny because I wrote a story about that in the middle of the summer up there at the Big Ten kickoff luncheon where I talked to Jordan Fuller and KJ Hill about it, you know, me and some other guys. And basically Jordan Fuller, I brought up that NFL, you know, the NFL scenario where you're sitting in a locker room and one guy's sitting two lockers over from him and maybe making $25 million a year and you're making the NFL minimum. Does that create problems in the locker room? You know, and obviously it does not unless that guy making $25 million a year is dragging everybody down, right? But that's what Jordan said. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the deal. Like, you know, as a grown man now, I might be a little bit more mature than some of these college guys, but, like, don't count other people's pockets has always been a good motto for me. Like, you know, mind your damn business. But the reality of the situation is I can remember as a rookie, I would be in the locker room, Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, Keenan Allen, and Melvin Gordon, Melvin Ingram. Those five guys, they would play cards, and they would be playing for like $2,500 a hand. Like, they would come into the locker room with $10,000 in cash.
Wow.
Could not have been me. As a rookie player, that's just not something I could have done.
Yeah.
But I didn't resent those guys for their ability to do so.
Yeah.
I just knew that they were really good players in the league. They had spent some years there, like, let me get my money up to a point where I can do that too.
Yeah. In other words, even in the locker rooms, pro players are making it rain. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
I got you. Joshua, you know, man, it is always a slice, man, when I get to talk to you on and off the record. I mean, I've always appreciated, man, your forthrightness. And by the way, your mom came by and took a picture of us at the pregame tailgate show the other day. So your mom is still very much involved. One of the great people I've ever met, along with your dad and your brothers. But, man, Joshua, appreciate it, man. More good luck to you down the road, brother. Keep up the good work on the Big Ten Network.
Thank you. I always enjoy talking to you as well. You know, one of those guys, I joke around with you, too, about how you say you're retired, but you're still around. But I just feel like Ohio State football wouldn't be the same if Tim May wasn't around.
Well, thank you very much. I'll pass it along to Gene Smith. Joshua, appreciate it, man. And Kay, keep hammering Glenn Mason. Don't let him get away with anything. You know what I'm saying.
Oh, no. I got it.
All right, brother. Thanks, man. Ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, that was Joshua Perry, former, like he pointed out, former leading tackler on the Big Ten, on Ohio State national championship team. And it's always a pleasure to get his view on things because he's always had his eyes wide open, observing not just what his socks look like as he gets ready to go out to practice, but what's going on around him. And it's always a pleasure. I really appreciate it. You know, we're going to be back in a moment. I'm going to quickly analyze a couple of plays that I really enjoyed watching on Saturday night in Ohio State's victory over Michigan State. And then after that, I'm going to bring on my friend Austin Ward, Boston Ward, as you know him best, to talk about what we've seen from this Ohio State team so far, what has really stood out from a development standpoint. So I'll be right back.
Hey college football fans, it's Zach Bourne here. You need to check out BetDSI.com. BetDSI is a great way to use your sports knowledge to make some extra cash. That's right. BetDSI is the top-rated online sportsbook. They've been paying winners for over 20 years. The reason they've been around that long is because they have got the fastest payouts in the industry. Plus, the user interface and mobile site is the best in the business. Play, win, and get paid. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if it's college football, the NFL, NBA, NHL, UFC, esports, reality TV, virtually anything. You can bet it. You can bet on it at betdsi.com and get paid right now. There's no better way to add some excitement to games that you already are watching. Check out their live betting, where you can bet on games throughout the entire matchup, every play, and every minute until the end. BetDSI has a special deal for Lettermen Row fans. Use the promo code ROW100 to get a 100% bonus match. That's more than double. That's right, more than double your money to start winning today. Once again, go to betdsi.com and use promo code ROW100 and get this limited 100% bonus offer to make some extra cash on the sports you know and love. BetDSI promo code ROW100. Now back to the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. This is my favorite segment of my Tim May podcast every week, where I break down a play. And for those of you just listening in your car or have downloaded the podcast while you do your daily jogging, I'm going to be a little more descriptive about what I'm seeing. The folks getting to watch it on their screen I think will be entertained even more. But I want to make it a little bit more like Eli Gold or Paul Keels calling the action than just maybe Lindsey Nelson. That's a name from the past that you people don't know. This is my two of my favorite examples of Ohio State getting things done against a very tough Michigan State defense. Actually, this is just one example of getting it done against the defense. I've got another play coming up of showing what value you can have as a defensive player in ways other than getting sacks. Basically, I'm talking about Chase Young. But on this play, the folks watching it can see Ohio State is lined up in the shotgun. I call it basically the cocked pistol because the quarterback, Justin Fields, is at pistol depth behind an offensive line that includes a tight end to the right. And you've got J.K. Dobbins to the left of Justin Fields. And you've got receivers on either side of the ball. And as the play starts, Michigan State's lined up pretty basic. They bring they've got two linebackers across the back, and then another linebacker steps back into the fray when he thinks a zone read option is coming. He is right about that. But as you notice, back that up a little bit, Spencer Holbrook, by the way, my glue man, the guy that holds it all together here at Lettermen Row. You'll watch this. Justin Fields reads the eye. He is reading this defensive end. They have not blocked on the end. That's why you call it a zone read option. You always leave someone unblocked. It goes all the way back to the days of when option football first started, and especially when Bill Yowen made it famous with the veer option. But you watch this. He's got his eyes on this defensive end coming off the left side of the offensive formation. Go ahead and roll it, Spence. Right there, stop it. Rightly so, Justin Fields has opted to hand the ball off to J.K. Dobbins from left to right. Now, that doesn't mean Justin Fields probably couldn't have beaten the defensive end on the end. But, Ohio State was bound and determined to keep chopping at this tree, which was the Michigan State front seven, until they made it fall. And anybody watching the game on Saturday night, it fell with a lot of thunder on this particular play. And also keep in mind, Xavier Henderson, Michigan State's safety, also from Pickerington Central High School, He is lined up in just to the left of the middle of the field from his viewpoint. But as the play starts, he seems to be bound and determined that this electric player right here, Justin Fields, is going to keep the ball, because watch the angle he takes initially. He's in trouble. Now, if you also look closely, offensive linemen have all gotten blocks, including Jonah Jackson on the defensive tackle, Brendan Bowen on the defensive end, Wyatt Davis on the other defensive tackle, and out here on the edge, I think that's Luke Farrell on their other linebacker. Look at this safety. Watch this safety come running up. He's pretty much going to have to play he's already run himself out of the play if you watch. This is amazing because Josh Myers has gotten a block on their middle linebacker, and boom, J.K. Dobbins to the second level. Stop it right there, Spence. Xavier Henderson tries to correct himself. It's a little bit too late. He doesn't realize really how fast J.K. Dobbins is as J.K. Dobbins goes through the hole. Like we've talked about it many times, the leaner, meaner J.K. Dobbins. Now let this play just run. Man, when you crack two guys right between, run between two guys to the open field, you've got a special running back. And just run this in slow motion real quick, and people can see this, Spence. Everybody's getting their block. Thanks to my friend Kirk Herbstreit, he's drawing the lines on where Xavier Henderson made his initial poor read on the play. He should have just stayed in the middle of the field. He was a safety that was going to clean up if anything happened. But as this play continues, watch what happens. Josiah Scott comes from the backside, and instead of tackling, jumping into the grist mill that is J.K. Dobbins' legs movement right now with the leaner, meaner, stronger J.K. Dobbins, he decides he's going to take a swing and try to knock the ball loose. Swing and a miss, ladies and gentlemen. Take your seat. You have struck out. J.K. Dobbins has just had another breakaway touchdown. And look at this. Just watching it as the play develops, ladies and gentlemen, we aren't getting to see this. It's amazing. J.K. Dobbins had his head down. He had that, what I call that lean to him, that pad level lean to him. He is running like a different back this year. Now let's jump forward, Spence, to the field goal. We'll make this quick. This guy right here, well, Boston Ward thinks this guy could end up in New York City at the end of the year as a Heisman Trophy candidate. And the folks that can't see it and are just listening to it, I have got my pointer right on Chase Young as Michigan State lines up to try a field goal at the end of its third quarter drive, where they tried to get something on the board to stay in this game. As the play develops, you'll see right here next to him is Devon Hamilton. And wait a minute, I was circling the wrong guy. That was Jayshon Cornell. Jayshon Cornell lines up. He's going to try to attack the A gap between the long snapper and the guard next to him. And Devon Hamilton is going to charge straight at the man in front of him, the third man down. But what's interesting here is there's really one guy that they've lined up to try to get the block, and it's Chase Young, who is lined up two gaps over from the center. And as the play develops, the guard goes over to help block Jayshon Cornell. And right here, Chase Young makes a swim move. Chase Young was coming from the third gap. Chase Young makes a swim move, pushes the blocker in front of him down, and if the ball had been kicked toward the uprights, which it was not, he would have had the block on this play. Because Devon Hamilton, as you see, folks getting to watch this, has shoved his man out of the way. Just a pure bull rush by him, and has opened things up. But what you don't get to see from this is a couple of minutes later, television. We could see this from the press box also. Mark D'Antonio is trying to claim that one of the Ohio State defenders pulled a guy out of the way. That was not the case. Chase Young just made such a great swim move when he rushed that it looked like the guy got shoved out of the way by Jayshon Cornell. Jayshon Cornell just attacked the A gap, and basically this guy forgot how good Chase Young was, opted not to hit him straight up, let him put a swim move on him. And this is how you become valuable as a football player and how you get attention if people are paying close attention. As one of the great players in the country, this is considered maybe the elite defensive end in the country, but he is selling out totally and then some on a possible field goal block, and as you well know, it's paid off for him handsomely a couple of times already this year. But Spencer Holbrook, my glue man, thank you very much for going through that again and keeping up with my stops and finishes. I just think you folks, this is a great way to understand how football is played. Matt Barnes has brought a lot of this with him from Maryland, the new special teams coordinator for Ohio State this year, and it is paying dividends. They are a factor one way or another on almost every special teams play anymore. Tell you what, we'll be right back in a moment with Boston Ward, where we're going to discuss what we've seen from Ohio State football so far this year that is worthy of recognition. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I always enjoy breaking down those plays, showing you maybe from my little vantage point, which is kind of still semi-uneducated, on what you can watch for. It's the little things you can watch for in a football game which make huge differences. And you and I were talking about this on Saturday night, late Saturday night after the game, Austin. I even told Chase Young as he was leaving the interview area, there are a lot more ways to impact a football game than just a pure sack, and I think you showed that again tonight, and he said thank you.
Well, and there's been a lot of examples of that where, we talked early in the season about him dropping back into coverage, and teams are trying to double team him, and he's not rushing the passer, and that's opening up stuff for guys coming on the back end. Sean Wade, they did that blitz again the other night against Michigan State.
Yep.
But now he's adding to that. He's not even touching the football on these field goals. Guys are trying to kick it around him, force the one miss. I don't know how he didn't get the blocks. I think the second one, the one that you broke down, if he touches that at all and it's going right into his stomach, he's probably going to score.
Yeah.
He's going to have some big stuff coming, and I think that he needs one or two of those to really get that ball rolling if he's going to have a legitimate Heisman Trophy campaign. And I don't know if that's what you were wanting to talk about on this show or not, but I think it would be – you and I mentioned that to Jerry Emick the other night. They want him to go to New York, and for a defensive guy, you might have to nudge that a little bit more because Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins are also on this team too.
What's interesting? I've been thinking about the dynamic there, and so far what's interesting about Justin Fields – is they've kind of hit a nice little maybe rhythm here with their offense from the standpoint of he's maybe not going to throw for 500 yards a game like Dwayne Haskins
right.
Jr. had to do last year a few times. I mean, he might get one game like that. I'm talking about Dwayne Haskins Jr. didn't throw for 500 yards every week, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a passing game because they couldn't run the ball consistently. With J.K. Dobbins and the offensive line having the year they've had thus far, you just look at the numbers the last couple of weeks. Justin Fields is throwing what I call just to kind of season the offense to a certain extent. When they give it to you, take it. But he's probably not going to have those big numbers from a passing standpoint. He still is going to have a lot of touchdowns responsible for. He's definitely still on pace to break that record, held by Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
We'll see if he gets there, but do you agree? I mean, they've kind of hit a nice little medium here.
I'm starting to watch them and see how Justin Fields represents that next step that Braxton Miller couldn't quite get to as a passer, that J.T. Barrett didn't quite reach, except for maybe that Penn State game and the huge comeback as a passer. What Justin Fields can do is not quite be Dwayne Haskins, but he can do enough things with his arm that opens up everything else for that offensive line,
yes,
for J.K. Dobbins. So the raw yardage total is probably not going to match up to what Braxton did as a rusher. He's not going to carry it as much as J.T., but he has a much better arm and seems more confident with some of these deliveries, especially deep down the field, that allow him all these – the touchdown numbers are going to be off the charts ahead of both of those guys. Yeah. And I think that's really helped set him apart. Is it's just kind of, the offense kept changing and shifting, and they couldn't quite get to this do everything in balance. Dwayne skewed it way to the pass. JT skewed it to the quarterback run. Justin Fields really allows them to go right down the middle.
Yeah, and the thing about Justin Fields is, you'd have to be an Antarctica native, who's never seen football to understand what he has meant to the offense to date of just that threat of the run. There were all kinds of examples on Saturday night against Michigan State, repeated examples of them respecting him and what it paid off for the other guys. And that's just going to increase because that run threat is, as Joshua Perry said, he gave a limp leg to a guy that was just like him walking down the street to go to the burger stand. I mean, it's just naturally he does some things out there which set him apart. He's not just fast. He's got some savvy when he runs. From a passing standpoint, he doesn't just rack it and throw it. He's got some savvy. That one play, I watched that a million times, and like Ryan Day said, the first interception he threw, and by the way, I was going to say that in the middle of the press conference last week, people were trying to jinx him, and it finally did work out. As he said, you jinxed me by asking about no interceptions. But that was a roll right, turn, and throw. He didn't even really look. And you can't ever put a ball, what I call it a fair catch ball, up there without at least looking.
Right.
But then past that, I think he's played very well to this point, from showing a lot of patience. From every week you see him learning. I think he could be a little sharper on his zone read option stuff. But a lot of times you and I were sitting there in the press box, and I go, he meant to give that to J.K. all the way anyway. So, it just looks that way sometimes. But past that, I mean, for a guy making his 6 starts now as a college football player, first since high school, I think he's done extremely well.
And he's graded on such a expected to be so great from day one. Such a high standard he's supposed to meet, replacing a Heisman Trophy finalist last year. And sometimes you hear this or see this, like he missed a throw. I think it was a 3rd down. He scrambled, middle of the field, throws high. I don't remember if it was Olave or whoever it was, but he misses that one. He throws the interception. Last week I got a question of the day about whether he holds the football too long, and he has at times been, you called it patient. He's been overly patient, and that's produced some sacks and some negative plays that Ohio State doesn't really want. But
here's the thing, though. People got to understand this, because Joshua Perry touched on this too, by what you're saying. A quarterback, especially a young first-time starting quarterback, sometimes you get used to having a little bit of time. And so then you're sitting here and you're definitely – sometimes it doesn't click immediately what they've just flipped into on the backside from a coverage standpoint, or has it – you don't know if it's clicked immediately with your receiver. And so you do sometimes get caught up in taking that extra. I saw Aaron Rodgers do that on Sunday against the Cowboys. They still won handily. But you sometimes get caught up in like just waiting for that everything to come together, and then all of a sudden it's too late to bail. It's kind of like flying an airplane with the engine on fire, get out, or land it, in the weeds.
But part of that, too, is that, you spend a lot of time in that cockpit learning what you should do.
Right.
And what you should do. And Justin Fields hasn't had that yet. So I'm getting there. There's always going to be a balance because he is so dangerous with his feet, and he trusts his athleticism so much. There's always going to be times, I think, no matter how long he plays, where he's going to, expect that he can make something magical happen even as a play breaks down around him. But the other part of it is that ball is going to start coming out of his hands more quickly. There are going to be throws. There was one Spencer and I were pointing at, and you and I were talking about it, where I think KJ was breaking open and had two steps on a guy coming across the middle of the field, but he had already seemed to make his decision to go to the outside guy.
Yeah.
And didn't hit. That stuff is going to come.
Sure.
He started 6 games. I keep saying it. I said it last week. He started 5 games. It's significant for a quarterback to spend more time. Even to go back to the conversations we had about Dwayne. Or when Tate Martell used to be talking and trying to threaten Justin Fields not to come here, you need a year or two to get comfortable in the system, especially with Ryan Day, and then they continue to add on. And Dwayne Haskins didn't even have the 100% upload a year ago, even when he was done.
Yeah.
Ryan Day estimated that at that coach's clinic that we were at earlier this year, that Dwayne was at like 70%. I mean, think about that. That's a guy threw 50 touchdown passes.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
So Justin Fields is only going to get better. And you look at these, even a bye week here, or off date, another one coming in a few weeks. Those are going to be valuable times just for him to get more on the practice field. Mm-hmm. Same will be true for Chugginoff and Hoke, but this guy is going to get more uploaded every single week.
Yeah. Hey, one other quick thing, and we'll get out of here. By the way, talking about him throwing to that guy instead of spotting KJ Hill, in game planning, a lot of times certain plays, whether they want to admit or not, are designed to try to take advantage of what you think is a mismatch. Even if you kind of throw it to a guy in kind of tight coverage, you think you can make that play, and that's easy to get fixated on. I think as it goes along, especially that play we saw the other night, they will counsel him on it. If that guy, if maybe this guy's a little closer covered than we like, look back, because, man, remember against Michigan State, KJ Hill was wide open over the middle. That would have been a big play. So, it has to work along. Like I said, I think he's developing. You may see that play down the road. I mean, that's what you're going to see. Real quickly, defensively, what is the best thing you've seen other than Chase Young in your Heisman Trophy campaign for him? By the way, that's going to fall short because the starting quarterbacks for these top 4 teams, especially 3 of them, I mean, are you kidding me? Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Justin Fields. Jake Fromm may get into it too. We'll see. And then Joe Burrow. It's going to be hard to crack that 5-some.
It is, and I get that. I don't expect that Chase Young will win, but I think it's. I did this way back when we talked about Tennessee. Eric Berry, Tennessee, did a Heisman campaign for him, and he was a truly special player. I just think that, I'll answer your question, but Chase Young, it's special when you see these defensive guys. They deserve. Chase Young works so hard. I think he's the best player in the country, and they deserve some of that attention. It shouldn't just go to the quarterbacks. So even if he doesn't win, I'm totally fine giving him a platform for a campaign, and I think that he's earned it. He won't win. You're right. The quarterbacks are doing exceptional stuff, including the guy on his own team.
It's funny. I could ask questions at a House hearing because I'll ask my question, but then I'll take it off in a totally different direction just to get my 10 cents in there.
And you gave me something that I just like talking about. Yeah, Chase Young.
I know you did.
It's been.
I knew I threw that ball right down the middle.
Red meat for me. The most impressive thing overall is the turnaround of the linebackers. I could say I was really torn because the secondary play has been so impressive, and Jeff Hafley broke down with Tyvis Powell actually coming on Buckeye Q what Jordan Fuller and Sean Wade have been doing. The cornerbacks, we did that last week with Chimdi Chekwa. Those guys have been great, but the linebackers were just so inconsistent and so poor the last couple years, and there was no reason for it because you knew that Baron Browning was an athletic freak. You knew that Malik Harrison was one of the most talented potential playmakers in the country. Tuff Borland, we saw at the end of 2017 when he went out there, and it's like he was just playing. They couldn't throw a lot on his plate, and he was making plays in the backfield. Pete Warner, we've seen it. So I don't blame them for it. I think that the coaching staff was paid a lot of money, and they failed to develop guys that are really gifted. And now Al Washington, Greg Madison, these guys, they've bought in, and all that stuff is showing through. If you pick one out of that group, I would say Baron Browning's rise has been the most impressive, and I think he's another example of a guy who's only going to get more responsibility as the season goes on, and that's not a knock on Tuff Borland, but it's just a tribute to Baron Browning.
Before he was called for a bogus blindside hit the other night on the interception return by Jordan Fuller.
That's like
but he had his hand in front too, and it was like, anyway.
Did I knock you off of the path as hard as I blocked you?
But you and I both digress. Yeah. The way he jumped in the air to tip that ball to begin with, number one, ridiculous ability. Number two, after he saw Jordan Fuller intercept the ball, ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you to go on Google and download a highlight. Baron Browning jumps about 5 feet in the air in total glee. I mean, he is so happy. It's ridiculous. And that should have been a pick six. I mean, Jordan Fuller ran straight toward me. I was standing down in the corner of the end zone by that point, because the game was put away. And he ran almost straight at me the way they returned the ball. Okuda had a good block. I mean, right on down the line, there were all kinds of things that happened well on that play. But Baron Browning is a different individual now, a different player. It's really interesting. Like I said about college football, when you and Bermanology and I were talking about the game late that night up in the tunnel there. I said, this is what happens. These guys go from 18 to 21 years old if they stay 4 years.
Yeah,
yeah. And they become different ball players, not just different people. I mean, they mature as people. They mature as ball players. And now, a lot of it is the coaching, but a lot of it is Jeffrey Okuda and Damon Arnett are back from last year. Jordan Fuller is back. Chase Young, Jonathan Cooper, Devon Hamilton having a hell of a year. Jason Cornell. Watch the game again. See how many times he is touching the quarterback when he throws the ball or in his face. That guy is having a hell of a year. That's what you're seeing is you're seeing guys rise. And it is made for, to date, a wonderful thing to watch on that defense.
I think you make a great point about Hamilton because you look at the individual box score and stat sheet. His name's not on there a lot. He's not making a lot of plays that actually show up. But I guarantee you, as this season goes on, and then they start talking about the draft prep, Devon Hamilton's name is going to come up a lot. And he's going to get paid because they're going to look at all the times that he's collapsing the pocket, how he helps shut down those rushing lanes with a big athletic frame there in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not showing up, and he's probably not going to get a lot of all Big Ten hype.
He's probably not going to New York, is what you're saying.
He's definitely not going to go to New York, and I'm not
Chicago.
Not backing his Heisman campaign. But when you're talking about draft prep,
yeah,
that guy's name is he's going to get paid.
Oh yeah,
and that's going to. The stuff he's putting on film is going to show up.
As I outlined, as I showed in that breaking down that near field goal block where the miss, Devon Hamilton helped make that play as much as Chase Young did, and it's amazing what they're getting done. Hey, it's always a slice having my friend Austin Ward on. Boston Ward, excuse me.
I appreciate you letting me come on.
Boston Ward. This football season really, it's halfway done. It's just getting started. Because this is, the games in October are the ones that keep you sober. And then the games in November are the ones you remember. And then the ones in December I haven't come up with they're the ones that give you distemper. I don't know. We'll think of another term for that. But
we'll work on it.
Yeah. But tell you what, we'll be back next week coming off the off week for Ohio State. And Boston and I will break down on what we expect to see moving forward with this football team, the things we've seen in the past 6 games that point toward where they're going, both from an individual standpoint and as a team standpoint. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I truly appreciate you listening or watching this podcast, or in the case of watching, both listening and watching. And we'll be back next week with more from the Tim May Podcast. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.